Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Poso Nation. So, I have something that I've been thinking about a lot lately because we're talking about justices and judges and who's going to be picked, who's not going to be picked, who should be picked, who shouldn't be picked. Um, I'm here to tell you if you're asking about, who wants to be the Supreme Court pick, I can give you the tea on that. But there's something else I want to get to first. So I'll give you the tea on the Supreme Court pick, but in a minute, because there's something we need to discuss first before we even get there. And there's a big problem that I see as I'm kind of surfing the Twitter waves out there, and that is there's a phrase that seems to be missing from the debate. And I see all conservatives are guilty of this, even myself. And so, because I hold myself to a higher standard, and because we should hold this movement to a higher standard, I'm going to call out myself and I'm going to call out everybody else. Because I can remember that when I was getting started in the conservative movement and years ago, and when we would talk about the Supreme Court, one of the main topics that we would discuss is the idea of judicial activism. Judicial activism. And there was a great video of Amy Coney Barrett that Fox Hunter just posted up, and I went and shared it on Twitter. And she's talking about the job of a judge. She's talking about the job of a judge. And it's really interesting because she goes back to John Adams. So do you guys remember John Adams? Or have you ever read about what John Adams, one of his most famous cases prior to getting involved in the revolution was, right? It was the Boston Massacre. Okay, and John Adams' job in the Boston Massacre, his role in that as a lawyer, he was a lawyer in Boston, and he actually defended the British soldiers. John Adams, did you know that? Hashtag did you know that John Adams defended the British soldiers in the Boston Massacre? Did you know that? One of the founding fathers of the United States of America defended the British soldiers in a Boston Massacre. And guess what? He got them all off. Not guilty. They were found not guilty. And why was that? Well, they're found not guilty because through a collection of evidence, it was actually found that it couldn't be determined. I'm not going to go through the whole case, but it couldn't be determined who gave the order to shoot, who fired the first shot, and so they couldn't be found guilty. And John Adams saw it as his duty. He saw it as his duty to uphold the law because he wanted to uphold the law equally for all people, even British soldiers in the Boston colony. Now, how do you think it was in terms of public opinion when John Adams got off the British soldiers in the Boston Massacre? How do you think the public reacted? How do you think his cousin Sam Adams and the Sons of Liberty reacted to that? They weren't too happy about it. If he was on Twitter, you would have said he lost a couple followers from that one. He probably would have got ratioed from that one, right? But he did it because it was his duty to uphold the law. That was his sworn duty, to uphold the law, regardless not only of public opinion, but also, he would have been canceled, right? Hashtag John Adams was canceled, right? Was John Adams. Now, he wasn't canceled. He wasn't canceled. People were mad at him. He wasn't canceled, but people were mad at him because it gave him what? It gave him credibility. It gave him credibility. It gave him credibility so that when he later became a delegate to the Continental Congress, people knew that he had credibility because he was willing to do what mattered. He was willing to do what was right as by the law, not just his personal preferences. And that's the difference. That's the difference. And what Amy Coney Barrett was saying, that the role of a judge is that your personal preferences and public opinion shouldn't matter when you are deciding a ruling on the law. That what matters is the law itself. And so this brings us back to a phrase that I wanted to get to called judicial activism. What does judicial activism mean? Judicial activism means when judges or panels of judges get together and decide that their personal preferences and public opinion matter more than what the law says. All right? And I'm going to say something that I'm probably not supposed to say. And I'm going to get into something that, I don't know, maybe some people who follow me here on Periscope don't want me to get into, but I'm going to get into it, right? The right to abortion is not found in the Constitution. The word abortion is not in the Constitution. It does not appear once. It doesn't appear. Go read the entire thing, all the amendments, even the 14th Amendment. Go read every single word of the Constitution. I guarantee you, you will not find the right to an abortion anywhere in the Constitution. All right. But in Roe v. Wade, when it was decided, the Supreme Court in 1973 issued a 7-2 decision ruling that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment provides a right to privacy that protects a pregnant woman's right to choose whether or not to have abortion. It's also ruled that this right is not absolute, but must be balanced against the government's interest in protecting women's health and protecting prenatal life. So let's go to that, the Due Process Clause. The clause in the Fifth Amendment reads, "No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law." While the clause in the 14th Amendment states, "Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law." Did you hear me say anything about abortion in there? Did you hear that in those words, in the words that I said? I mean, that is extremely vague, right? It's quite vague. And yet that due process clause, they interpreted that to mean that there is a constitutional right to abortion. And this is the problem. This is the problem of interpretation, all right? And when you are interpreting something beyond the text and beyond the original intent of what the text says and what the intent of the writers meant, well, you can interpret all sorts of things you want into the text, right? You can interpret all sorts of rights in there. You know, the Constitution is a living document. This is where that phrase comes from. And yet we don't hear judicial activism. There was a justice who just passed away, who was considered one of the main defenders of Roe v. Wade. However, interestingly enough, and I will give RBG credit on this, that before she joined the court, did you know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg criticized Roe v. Wade because she preferred that abortion law be done through legislation. She didn't think that it should have been a court decision. This is before she joined, of course. And if you go read the decision, it reads like some kind of, set of hospital rules and regulations. Okay, that's something for a state government to decide. The federal government, under the U.S. Constitution, has no authority over health decisions. It's just not there. It's just not there, folks. It's just not there. It's literally just not there. Like, go pull out your Constitution, go look it up. It ain't there. All right, it ain't there. And this is the problem of judicial activism. I know I don't usually get constitutional with you guys because I do like to stay topical, but because it matters right now so much, we are going to get into it because it ain't in the Constitution, folks. It ain't there. What's the role of a judge, right? What's the role of a judge? And that's something that I think Amy Coney Barrett described very well. Do you guys want me to play that video, or do you want to just go with my, put in the comments right now. Do you want to see the video talking about talk about the job of a judge and Amy Barrett's
to public pressure
in her own words? Do you want me to play it, or do you just want me to talk about it? All right, sounds like you guys want me to play it. All right, I'll play it. So it's from Hillsdale College, if you guys like that. Here she is. It's about a minute long.
John Adams put aside personal preferences. He stood up to public pressure, and he did his duty. And moreover, he did it to the best of his ability. He didn't do his grudging, minimal best. He did his absolute best, and the captain was acquitted, and most of the soldiers were, and those who were not escaped the death penalty. Now, John Adams did these things as a lawyer, but adhering to duty in the face of a contrary personal or political preference, and in the face of public pressure to the contrary, has particular resonance for the job of a judge. A judge is obligated to apply the law as it is and not as she wishes it would be. She's obliged to follow the law even when her personal preferences cut the other way, or when she will experience great public criticism for doing so.
And that's from M. Foxhunter. He's really pause it. I'm gonna play it again. So he's really great on Twitter. He goes, go follow Foxhunter. Go see what he's working on. Very good. And so this is the job of a judge, right? And for so long, conservatives have seen because the left doesn't treat the Supreme Court like this, right? The left thinks that the Supreme Court is like some sort of engine for social change in the United States. And if you look at some of the decisions that have come out of the Supreme Court over the past years, of course, we have Roe v. Wade. We also had same-sex marriage come out of the Supreme Court. A lot of different social changes that have come out of the Supreme Court. The left treats the Supreme Court as if its job is judicial activism for social change. Isn't it time that we got away from that? In our constitutional republic, and I told you I was getting constitutional on you, but in our constitutional republic, the job of a judge is not to interpret the law in line with their personal preferences and with public opinion. The job of a judge is to apply the law as written. Apply the law as written. Whose job is it? Whose job is it to set policy? Whose job is it to set policy in this country? All right. Whose job is it then? Right? Let's see if you guys can follow this. Whose job is it then to set public policy in our country and to make the laws? Let's go back. 101, right? 101 level. I see a lot of people saying it. That's right. Is the legislative branch. I'm not saying that's how it always works these days, but it is Congress. Congress writes the laws, and the president implements them. All right, that's Congress. Now, does Congress have the right to make whatever law they want? Can Congress just make up any law just from off the top of their heads? They say, they say, you know what? I think everyone should wear a blue shirt on Tuesdays. Can they make that law? Can they say, yeah, it's Tuesday, and everyone? How about just men? How about just men? Men have to wear blue shirts on Tuesdays. All men in the United States over 18, not under 18, over 18, all adults have to wear blue shirts on a Tuesday. Can Congress do that? No, it's unconstitutional. Because they do not have that power under the Constitution, right? By that same token, right, if there was some conflict that arose under state law, and that went all the way up to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court would not be able to say, yes, men must wear, 7 to 2. It doesn't matter, 7 to 2. So it doesn't matter how many judges agree with it. It would be judicial activism for the Supreme Court to go out and say that, yes, you can have blue shirt only Tuesdays, blue shirt Tuesdays. That would be judicial activism. And so here's the problem. And this is really an issue where it comes to all laws. My brother just said, what about blue masks on Tuesdays? Interestingly, they do have quarantine power, but they do not have power to tell you what color mask to wear. So, and that's the state level. The question then becomes, who is a check on the Supreme Court? Who is a check on, right? We talk about checks and balances, right? So the courts are a check on state governments. The judiciary is a check on the legislature. They can rule that something's unconstitutional. Who is the check? But Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, right? They're appointed for life. So who is the check on them? Well, the executive branch is, in a sense, the executive branch is, in a sense, because the executive branch appoints. However, executives change every 4 years, right? And after 8 years, they're gone. Meanwhile, because they're there for life, we've still got people that were appointed by Clinton. We've got people that were appointed by Bush, first Bush. We've also got people that are appointed by Obama. And we've got people who are appointed by Trump, right? Trump's already got 2, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. So executive, and one day Donald Trump will no longer be president. I know. But one day Donald Trump will no longer be president. So how then is there a check on the Supreme Court? And I see some people saying it. The final check is we the people. We the people. Can we push for our legislators to impeach? You can impeach a Supreme Court justice, but it's not, it's very rare. It's exceedingly rare. It is exceedingly rare. But right now, we the people have the ability to be a check on the Supreme Court in terms of at least who we pick or who we get behind for this vacancy. And I know I promised you guys tea on this, and I'll give you the tea. Just give me one more minute. But ultimately, it comes down to what will people accept. It's really it. What will people accept? And people will accept it, they'll go along with it. Look at Obamacare, right? Nothing in Obamacare said it was a tax, but John Roberts said that, it seems like a tax to me. So we just decided. It wasn't even the argument of the government's lawyers, the Obama administration's lawyers at the time. But John Roberts decided it was a tax, so now we have Obamacare. And people go along with it? Yes, they did. Conservatives were upset. Conservatives were like, oh no, I'm very upset. This is wrong. But they went along with it. Nobody acted like the far left does. No, we wouldn't act like that. But The question is, folks, the question is, are we going to continue to allow judicial activism within our United States, within these United States? Or are we going to ask for a judge, for justice on our Supreme Court, and really a full complement of judges who understand the proper role of a judge in our society? A judge and a Senate that confirms them, once they're appointed by the president, who understand that the role of a judge, it's quite simple, the role of a judge is to apply the law. Apply the law and the Constitution as written, not their own personal preferences. I think personally, it's about time. I think it's about time. Everything I'm hearing says ACB is in the lead. Obviously, that could change, but everything I'm hearing says that ACB is in the lead. That's the T. Yes, they are waiting for RBG to have her funeral first, which will take place tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I think it's a Wednesday, Thursday. She'll be lying in state. And then that they are looking to hold the vote they're going to hold the hearings first and then the vote prior to the election. That's the latest tea that I have heard on this. Putting it out to you. I'm not saying that it's 100% yet, because of course in the Trump administration, everything is always subject to change. However, what I'm telling you is this is the latest that I'm hearing out of Washington, and there you have it. So I gotta get back to work here. Do they have to have hearings? No, they do not have to have hearings. However, because people are waiting for hearings and people are expecting hearings, you're more than likely going to have hearings. I don't think there's a chance of getting a confirmation without hearings. I really just don't think so. And of course, Kamala, right? She's going to be there. So she's going to have to get off the campaign trail. Joe Biden is already also not on the campaign trail because he works for about an hour a day. How many hours a day does Joe Biden actually work, right? Imagine if you called out of your job at 9:30 or 8:30 every morning. You'd be fired, right? You'd be fired. I think I'm going to do another video on that because that's funny. Anyway, folks, that's the T. Stop judicial activism. Working on a million different things. I'm writing a book. I'm working on a documentary, and I'm working on a graphic novel, which is being printed. It started being printed yesterday, being printed today. So I'm doing a million different things. Raising a 2-year-old, and I'm also here on a regular basis. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, you have my permission. Delay short.